Introduction. Have you ever caught yourself wondering if this is all there is to life? Waking up to an alarm clock that jolts you into obligations you didn't fully choose, checking off tasks that feel more like survival than purpose, and then lying in bed at night sensing a quiet ache, that haunting whisper of there has to be more. You're not alone. Millions of people drift through their days reacting instead of creating, settling instead of shaping, surviving instead of living. The tragedy isn't that people don't have dreams. It's that somewhere along the way, they were told it's unrealistic to pursue them. So they traded intention for routine, traded passion for practicality, and let their one, wild, precious life be scripted by someone else. But here's the truth. You were never meant to live by default. You are the architect of your experience, the author of your personal reality. Whether you realize it or not, you are already designing your life. Every choice, every belief, every habit is contributing to the structure you live inside. The question isn't whether you're creating. The question is, are you doing it consciously? This book is your invitation to wake up and begin designing your dream life with purpose, clarity, and courage. Not a fantasy life pulled from someone else's highlight reel, but a life that feels deeply aligned with who you are at your core. A life where your values are reflected in your calendar, where your environment energizes you instead of draining you, where your goals don't just sound impressive, they feel right. Designing your dream life doesn't mean you won't face fear, failure, or setbacks. It means you will face them with a sense of purpose, direction, and unshakable self-trust. It means you'll stop waiting for permission and start owning your role as the creator of your destiny. Your dream life isn't a fantasy. It's a blueprint waiting to be activated. Let's build it together. Chapter 1. Understanding who you truly are. Designing your dream life begins with a journey inward. Before setting goals, chasing success, or crafting a vision board, it's essential to uncover the very essence of who you are, your core values, your natural strengths, and your deepest passions. These inner elements are the compass that guides you to a life that feels meaningful, authentic, and aligned with your unique identity. Core values are the non-negotiables, the beliefs and principles that quietly govern your decisions, influence your relationships, and shape your worldview. They aren't always obvious at first glance. You may think you value success, but what lies underneath might be a craving for freedom, growth, or connection. Discovering your core values requires honest reflection on moments in your life when you felt most fulfilled or most frustrated. The times you felt most alive often point to values being honored, while the moments of deepest conflict or dissatisfaction reveal when those values were violated. As you reflect, patterns begin to emerge. Perhaps you see that you thrive in environments where creativity is encouraged, where you feel drained when authenticity is lacking. When your life aligns with your values, everything flows with less resistance. When misaligned, even achievements can feel hollow. Alongside your values are your natural strengths, the talents, skills, and traits that come effortlessly to you and light up your interactions with the world. Strengths aren't just about what you're good at. They are also about what energizes you. Some people have the gift of empathy and connection, able to make others feel seen and heard in moments of vulnerability. Others are natural problem solvers, thriving in situations that demand logic, strategy, or innovation. Still others bring order to chaos or inspire action through words, art, or leadership. You can often recognize your strengths in the moments when you lose track of time, feel unusually confident, or receive praise that feels like second nature to you. Identifying and owning your strengths is not about arrogance. It's about stepping into the unique role only you can play in the world. When you lead with your strengths, your efforts feel more sustainable, more enjoyable, and far more impactful. Then, there are your passions, the sparks that ignite your soul. These are the things that excite your curiosity, stir your emotions, and make you feel deeply connected to life. Sometimes your passions are loud and obvious, like a love for writing, teaching, or building. Other times, they're quiet whispers, subtle inclinations you've brushed aside, hobbies you haven't had time for, or interests you feel afraid to pursue. Passions are often found in what you daydream about, what you could talk about for hours, or what you return to again and again, even when no one is watching. The most powerful passions are those that combine your joy with a sense of purpose, when what you love to do also serves others or contributes to something greater than yourself. The intersection of your core values, strengths, and passions is where the blueprint for your dream life begins to take shape. It's not about copying someone else's path or chasing what's popular or expected. It's about aligning your external world with your inner truth. The more self-aware you become, the clearer your decisions become. You start saying yes to opportunities that feel right in your gut, and saying no to things that drain your energy or pull you away from who you truly are. Life stops feeling like a checklist and begins to feel like an expression of your purpose. This process isn't always easy. It can require unlearning old beliefs, letting go of societal expectations, and giving yourself permission to evolve. But the clarity that comes from knowing who you are at your core is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. It turns confusion into confidence, noise into direction, and ambition into something deeply meaningful. When you live a life rooted in your values, fueled by your strengths, and inspired by your passions, you don't just design your dream life. You become it. Letting go of societal expectations and inherited limitations. Letting go of societal expectations and inherited limitations is one of the most profound acts of liberation you can undertake when designing your dream life. It's not a single decision, but an ongoing inner revolution, a quiet dismantling of rules that were never truly yours, a deep questioning of everything you've been taught to believe about who you should be, what success looks like, and how life ought to unfold. From an early age, many people are subtly shaped by the weight of societal narratives. These are the unspoken laws that govern the majority. The belief that stability is always better than risk, that certain careers are more prestigious than others, that marriage and children must come by a certain age, that a life that doesn't look like the movies is somehow incomplete. These expectations are so embedded in the cultural air we breathe that they often go unquestioned. We internalize them as truth, not realizing they may have very little to do with our authentic selves. Inherited limitations compound this further. These are the beliefs passed down from family, community, or culture, well-meaning, but often rooted in fear, survival, or outdated thinking. You may have been taught that dreaming too big is dangerous, that you should be grateful for what you have even if it makes you miserable, that wanting more for yourself is selfish or unrealistic. These inherited mental scripts don't just affect your choices. They shape your self-concept, coloring what you believe you deserve, what you think is possible, and how you respond to failure or desire. Designing your dream life requires the courage to unlearn. It means stepping back from the roles you were conditioned to play and listening, truly listening, to the quiet hum of your own soul. That voice often gets drowned out in the noise of cultural programming, but it is always there, waiting to be honored. It speaks in moments of inspiration, in your longing for more, in the way your heart quickens when you imagine a different life than the one you were handed. It doesn't shout, it whispers, and to hear it, you must slow down, strip away the layers, and become intimately acquainted with what feels deeply true for you. Not for your parents, not for your society, not for the algorithm or your peers, but for you. Letting go is rarely neat or painless. It can feel like betrayal, betraying a legacy, a culture, a tradition. There may be grief in this process, the grief of disappointing others, of not being who they hoped you would be. But there is also tremendous freedom. When you stop living by borrowed scripts, you reclaim the authorship of your life. You begin to ask better questions. What brings me alive? What kind of impact do I want to have? What would I do if no one was watching? These questions don't always yield immediate answers, but they open the door to a more aligned, expansive way of being. You may notice that when you start living outside the mold, some people will not understand. That's okay. Not everyone is meant to journey with you to the life you're building. Some will resist, criticize, or attempt to pull you back into conformity, not out of malice, but because your evolution challenges their comfort zone. In those moments, it's important to remember that your life is not a democracy. It's a sacred, singular path that only you can walk, and you owe it to yourself to walk it fully. Releasing societal expectations and inherited limitations doesn't mean rejecting all tradition or community. It means consciously choosing which values and beliefs serve you and which do not. It means creating space for your inner truth to breathe, to move, to guide you. When you do that, you stop striving for a life that looks good and start building one that feels right. Designing your dream life isn't about escaping your past. It's about transmuting it. It's about recognizing the stories that no longer serve you and daring to write new ones. The power to redefine success, identity, and happiness is always within you. All it takes is the willingness to trust your inner compass more than the external noise and to believe, even quietly at first, that you were never meant to be ordinary. You were meant to be free. Clarifying what fulfillment, success, and happiness mean to you. Before you can design your dream life, you must first confront a fundamental question. What does it even mean to be fulfilled, successful, or happy? These aren't universal states with one-size-fits-all answers. They're deeply personal, often shaped by your experiences, your values, your inner longings, and sometimes your quiet rebellions against everything society told you to want. Fulfillment isn't always found in grand achievements or public recognition. Sometimes it's the peace that settles over you when you're aligned with your values, when what you do and who you are no longer feel like separate realities. It's waking up with a sense of purpose that isn't borrowed from a job title or someone else's approval. Fulfillment might mean feeling deeply useful, being connected to something greater than yourself, or simply living in a way that feels honest and whole. It often arrives quietly, without applause, and settles deep in the bones like truth. Success is even trickier. For many, it's been sold as a destination, a certain income, a position of power, an image polished for social media. But the danger of chasing someone else's version of success is that it can hollow you out. You can climb all the right ladders only to discover they were leaning against the wrong wall. True success, when you strip it of outside noise, might be the freedom to choose how you spend your time, or the ability to say no without guilt. It could be building something meaningful, nurturing relationships that matter, or living in a way that honors your deepest instincts. Success, when self-defined, becomes a mirror, not a scoreboard. Happiness, on the other hand, is often misunderstood as a constant high, an uninterrupted stream of pleasure or positivity. But real happiness isn't about avoiding discomfort or curating a perfect life. It's about presence, the ability to savor moments, to be here fully, without needing every condition to be ideal. It can look like laughter over a simple meal, the quiet joy of a morning routine, or the pride in choosing growth over comfort. Happiness, when it's authentic, often contains sadness, struggle, and imperfection within it. It's not the absence of difficulty. It's the refusal to let difficulty steal your inner light. To truly design your dream life, you must name these things for yourself. You must be willing to peel back inherited definitions and look within. You have to notice what makes you feel alive, what nourishes your soul, what drains you, and what sparks that internal yes. It takes honesty. It takes courage to admit you want something different than what the world told you is worthy. But until you define what fulfillment, success, and happiness mean to you, not to your peers, not to your parents, not to society, you'll be building someone else's dream and calling it your own. And so, the first step in creating a life that feels like yours is not action, but clarity. It is the sacred work of listening to your inner voice, of writing your own definitions, of refusing to settle for vague or borrowed dreams. Only then can the life you design be a true reflection of your deepest desires and your most authentic self. Chapter 2. Vision Crafting and Goal Clarity. Dreaming boldly begins with the quiet but radical act of giving yourself permission to imagine a life far greater than what you've been taught to expect. It means allowing your heart to wander past the boundaries of societal norms, inherited fears, and personal doubts. To dream boldly is to acknowledge that you are not here to simply survive, but to live with passion, purpose, and audacity. It's recognizing that your desires are not foolish whims, but clues to the life your soul craves. For many, the first obstacle to bold dreaming is the internalized belief that wanting more is selfish or unrealistic. These beliefs often stem from early conditioning, messages that praise humility but misinterpret it as smallness, or lessons that frame ambition as arrogance. To truly begin designing your dream life, you must confront and dismantle those inherited limitations. You must realize that dreaming big does not make you ungrateful for what you have. It means you recognize your potential and are courageous enough to pursue it. Giving yourself permission to want more involves shedding the guilt that sometimes clings to desire. It means embracing the idea that you are worthy of expansion, of joy, of beauty in every area of life. Permission is not something you wait for from the outside world. It's something you grant yourself in the privacy of your own mind and spirit. This is where your dream life begins, not with a plan or a list, but with a mindset shift that says, I am allowed to want more. I'm allowed to want deeply. I'm allowed to build something extraordinary. When you embrace this permission, your vision begins to stretch. You no longer see limits. You see possibility. You begin to imagine a life not based on what's expected of you, but on what lights you up. You start asking different questions. What if I could do this? What if I didn't have to settle? What will my life look like if I follow the things that make me feel alive? This level of curiosity and permission becomes a compass, pulling you toward a more vibrant and aligned version of yourself. To dream boldly also means reclaiming your power as the architect of your own existence. It's easy to shrink your dreams to fit your current circumstances. But bold dreaming requires that you reverse that logic. You stretch your circumstances to match your dreams. This doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means starting with vision and letting that vision inform your next step, even when the how isn't yet clear. Bold dreams feed on belief. They grow with action, but they are born from daring to ask yourself, what do I truly want? And not backing away from the answer. The fear of failure will inevitably show up, as will the fear of judgment, rejection, or not being enough. But those fears are not signs to stop. They're signs that you're moving into territory that matters. Bold dreaming is not about reckless fantasy. It's about authentic self-expression, guided by values and inspired by possibility. It's about choosing to live a life that reflects the full capacity of your spirit rather than the limits of your past. Giving yourself permission to want more is one of the most revolutionary choices you can make. It is the gateway to living deliberately, not by default. It is the foundation upon which your dream life is built, because no matter how detailed your plans or how organized your goals, they all begin with one brave thought. I'm allowed to want more. And from that thought, the dream begins to unfold, creating a vivid, multidimensional vision of your ideal life. Crafting a vivid, multidimensional vision of your ideal life begins as an act of radical permission, the quiet, resolute decision to lift every internal guardrail and allow yourself to imagine without limitation. Close your eyes and let the curtain of ordinary perception fall away. In that uncluttered space, invite each facet of existence: work, relationships, health, creativity, spirituality, environment, recreation, to step forward like characters in an unfolding play. Pay attention to how they feel, look, sound, and even smell. Rather than arranging them in a flat wish list, give them depth. See your career as more than a title or salary, but as a daily rhythm that animates your mornings with purpose, lights your afternoons with curiosity, and leaves your evenings aglow with accomplishment and freedom. Hear the cadence of conversations that fill your ideal relationships. Notice the warmth in shared silences. Sense the steady pulse of trust beneath all words. Next, shift from passive observation to sensory immersion. Stand barefoot on the floor of your imagined home. Is it cool marble, sun-warmed wood, or springy grass under an open-air pavilion? Taste the first sip of water you pour at dawn, perhaps infused with mint from your own balcony garden, and feel how that freshness mirrors your approach to well-being. Invite scent into the scene. Maybe the tang of sea spray if your dream life unfolds near an ocean, or the faint sweetness of jasmine drifting through a courtyard. By weaving sensory threads through each domain, you transform an abstract ideal into a textured inner film that the mind can revisit at will. Allow time to stretch, contract, and loop within your vision. A multidimensional life is not a single snapshot, but a living montage. Glide through a typical day, but also jump ahead 5 years to witness accumulated skills, seasoned relationships, and projects launch from seed to bloom. Then rewind to pivotal moments. The instant you said yes to an unfamiliar opportunity. The morning you recommitted to meditation after weeks of chaos. The evening you chose rest instead of overcommitment. Watching these turning points from different vantage points deepens the narrative arc of your imagined life and reveals the values stitching it all together. Emotion is the animating current, so invite feelings to color every scene. Notice the steady hum of contentment while you prepare breakfast, the spark of exhilaration as you present a breakthrough idea, the serene pride of tucking a child into bed, or the soft relief that arrives when you honor boundaries. Let difficult emotions surface, too, because an ideal life is still life. Frustration may appear while mastering a new craft. Melancholy might visit on a rainy afternoon. But in your vision, these emotions move through you without snagging your sense of worth or direction. Observing how you gracefully navigate them layers resilience into the dream. Texture your vision with context from the external world. See how your ideal life responds to collective challenges, climate shifts, technological leaps, social movements. And imagine yourself as an adaptive, engaged participant rather than a passive observer. This reframes your personal aspirations as threads in a larger tapestry, infusing the dream with meaning beyond individual gratification. Sense the ripple effects. The community garden you co-create improves neighborhood nutrition. The mentorship program you fund unlocks paths for others. The art you share shifts conversations about beauty and justice. Bring your vision into dialogue with your body, because embodiment converts dream into felt reality. Picture how it feels to wake rested. The supple spine, the relaxed jaw, the steady breath. Imagine the rhythms of exercise you love, dance, hiking, martial arts, and picture sweat glistening on your skin, joints moving fluidly, lungs expanding like sails. Envision nourishment that delights the palate and fuels longevity, and register the quiet pride of caring for your future self in every meal. Give your vision a soundtrack, the ambient hush of a creative studio, the laughter of friends around a fire, the rustling wind in a forest retreat, the soaring chords of an anthem that makes you lift your chin and breathe more deeply. Music molds memory. When you attach sound to your dream, you prime the brain to recognize resonant frequencies in the real world and steer you toward environments that echo them. By layering sensory detail, emotional nuance, temporal fluidity, social relevance, bodily awareness, and auditory atmosphere, you craft a multidimensional vision that feels less like yearning and more like déjà vu, a place you have already walked and can therefore find again. Hold this living, breathing narrative close, return to it often, and let it guide daily choices until imagination and experience converge. Vision boards, scripting, and visualization techniques that work. Creating your dream life is as much about mindset and intention as it is about action. And some of the most powerful tools in this process are vision boards, scripting, and visualization. These practices tap into the subconscious mind, making the abstract tangible and bridging the gap between your present reality and the life you're striving to build. They're not just whimsical exercises in wishful thinking. They're scientifically supported methods for enhancing clarity, focus, motivation, and belief. A vision board is a physical or digital collage of images, words, and symbols that represent the life you want to live. It acts as a visual reminder of your goals, desires, and intentions. When created with intention and emotion, it serves as a powerful anchor for your subconscious mind. Each time you look at your vision board, you're reinforcing the direction you want your life to take. Your brain responds to these repeated visual cues by becoming more aware of opportunities and aligning your behavior with your aspirations. It's not magic, it's focus. The clearer the images and the more emotionally connected you are to them, the more your brain begins to recognize those things as familiar and possible. This begins to shift your perspective and choices in subtle but meaningful ways. Scripting takes visualization a step further. It is the process of writing about your dream life in the present tense, as though it's already happening. It's like narrating your future self's life story, rich in detail and emotion. This technique encourages you to mentally live in your desired future, igniting feelings of gratitude and joy before the manifestation even occurs. The subconscious mind doesn't easily distinguish between what's vividly imagined and what's real. So the more you write and emotionally engage with your script, the more your brain and body begin to normalize that version of life. You become more likely to take actions that match this new narrative, not because you're pretending, but because you're training yourself to believe that it's possible and that it's already on the way. Visualization ties all of this together. It is the practice of mentally rehearsing your desired outcomes, seeing them in detail, and feeling the emotions as if they are already yours. Athletes use it to sharpen performance, and top performers in every field rely on it to prepare mentally for success. When you close your eyes and immerse yourself in the experience of living your dream life, seeing your surroundings, hearing the sounds, feeling the textures, embodying the confidence, it triggers neural pathways that reinforce belief and intention. This mental rehearsal primes you to show up in your daily life with more confidence, creativity, and clarity. Visualization doesn't just prepare you for the destination. It changes the way you walk the path to it. When used consistently, these tools work synergistically. The vision board keeps your goals visible, scripting makes them emotionally vivid, and visualization makes them neurologically familiar. They cultivate a mindset of possibility and expectation, rather than one of lack or doubt. They allow you to train your focus on what you do want, rather than ruminating on what you don't. Designing your dream life begins with clarity, and these techniques create the space to dream boldly, define specifically, and believe deeply. This is not about passive wishing. It's about active co-creation. Vision boards, scripting, and visualization are not replacements for hard work. They are companions to it. They help you anchor your intentions in your consciousness, fueling your energy and guiding your choices. They remind you that your imagination is not a luxury. It's a tool. When you imagine your dream life vividly and repeatedly, it starts to feel less like a fantasy and more like an inevitability. That belief is the spark that fuels everything else. Chapter 3. Reverse engineer your reality. Turning your vision into actionable, trackable steps is where dreams evolve from abstract possibilities into living realities. It's the bridge between imagination and execution, where the spark of desire becomes a flame of intention fueled by deliberate movement. It begins with anchoring your vision in clarity. Once you've painted the picture of your dream life with vibrant emotional and mental colors, the next phase is to break that vision into specific domains of life: career, relationships, finances, health, personal growth, or contribution. Not in a rigid, compartmentalized way, but rather as streams that flow from the same inner source of desire and fulfillment. From there, you start reverse engineering. You ask yourself, if this is where I want to be, who do I need to become to live this way? This self-inquiry creates a natural alignment between identity and behavior. You begin identifying the habits, skills, and decisions that would support the person capable of living your vision. The process isn't about overloading yourself with everything at once, but creating intentional focus. Each area of life tied to your dream becomes a chapter, and each chapter is composed of daily practices, milestone markers, and core commitments that reflect your values and goals. Trackability comes from setting up visible, tangible systems of measurement. This doesn't mean obsessing over numbers or rigid deadlines, but developing a rhythm of review and feedback. Whether it's a weekly journal check-in, a habit tracker, or a visual progress board, the goal is to create awareness of movement. Progress becomes a conversation with yourself. What's working, what feels aligned, what's slipping, and what needs to evolve. This allows for course correction without judgment. It shifts the journey from a pressure-filled pursuit to a fluid unfolding that honors both your vision and your humanity. Turning your vision into steps also requires choosing keystone actions, those few intentional movements that naturally cascade into other improvements. A morning routine rooted in intention may lead to better focus, healthier eating, and more mental clarity. Committing to a creative project can reignite your sense of purpose and discipline. These small, repeatable actions compound, and their results begin to echo throughout your life. Accountability becomes a vital part of the process, not as external pressure, but as a self-respecting partnership with your future. This might involve sharing your intentions with a trusted friend, coach, or community. Or it could mean designing your environment to support the behaviors and mindset you need, removing friction, creating reminders, and celebrating small victories. As you translate your dream life into actionable steps, you become both the architect and the builder. You don't wait for the perfect timing or overwhelming motivation. Instead, you learn to create consistent motion out of clarity and alignment. The magic lies not in giant leaps, but in continuous, intentional steps that reflect who you are becoming. Your dream life isn't just something you chase. It's something you build day by day, action by action, with a heart full of vision and a mind committed to progress. The art of long-term planning with short-term focus. The art of long-term planning with short-term focus is a delicate and powerful balance that distinguishes dreamers from doers and wishful thinkers from intentional creators. It's a mindset that understands the value of having a grand, meaningful vision while remaining rooted in the present moment. This approach refuses to be overwhelmed by the scale of the dream and instead builds a relationship with the now that is purposeful, engaged, and effective. At its heart, it is about holding the future in your heart while keeping your eyes and hands busy with today's work. Long-term planning begins with clarity. It demands that you take a step back and ask where you're heading, not in a vague or idealized way, but with depth, curiosity, and emotional involvement. A compelling future isn't just a set of goals. It's a feeling, a direction, a lived possibility that pulls you forward. Whether it's a vision of the life you want to build, the career you aim to nurture, or the impact you hope to leave behind, long-term planning gives you a compass that can guide your decisions, even when the terrain gets tough. But without short-term focus, this vision can become distant and paralyzing. Looking too far ahead can evoke feelings of inadequacy, impatience, or fear, especially when the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels like a chasm. This is where the power of short-term focus becomes your anchor. By narrowing your attention to what can be done today, you turn abstract dreams into tangible steps. You learn to ask yourself what one thing you can do now that brings you into alignment with that larger plan. It's not about racing to the finish line. It's about placing one stone at a time with care, precision, and intention. Focusing on the short term does not mean abandoning the long view. In fact, it ensures that the long-term plan stays alive through consistent daily action. Each moment of focused work becomes a vote for the person you are becoming and the life you are creating. Even the smallest progress matters because it feeds momentum and builds self-trust. Over time, these micro-movements compound into significant shifts, and what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. There's also a humility and wisdom in short-term focus. It acknowledges that you can't control every variable of the future, but you can influence how you show up now. It embraces flexibility, adaptability, and presence. Long-term goals may need to evolve as circumstances change, but when you focus on doing what you can with what you have, you stay in motion. Momentum protects you from stagnation and keeps your relationship with your goals dynamic rather than rigid. This approach also builds resilience. Because your identity is not pinned to instant success, but to daily commitment, you're less likely to be discouraged by setbacks. Temporary failures become part of the process, not the end of the story. You begin to see the value in discipline, the joy in progress, and the strength in consistency. You stop chasing perfect conditions and instead learn to create progress out of imperfect moments. The art of long-term planning with short-term focus invites you into a life where ambition and mindfulness coexist. It allows you to dream boldly while living grounded. It teaches you that greatness isn't built in a day, but it is built daily. With a clear horizon in your mind and full attention on the task before you, you become a sculptor of time, shaping your future moment by moment, action by action, thought by thought, designing habits, routines, and systems that align with your future self. Designing habits, routines, and systems that align with your future self is a powerful act of self-leadership. It's about bridging the gap between who you are today and who you're becoming. Your future self is not some distant stranger. It is an evolved version of you shaped by the consistent choices you make right now. When you intentionally create habits and routines that reflect the behaviors, mindset, and lifestyle of the person you want to become, you start living in alignment with your highest potential. This process requires vision, clarity, discipline, and above all, intentionality. Begin by deeply understanding the values, aspirations, and identity of your future self. Think about how that version of you lives. What kind of work do they do? How do they show up in relationships? How do they handle their health, money, energy, and creativity? Visualize their environment, their daily rhythms, their emotional tone. Then turn that insight inward and evaluate your current behaviors and routines. Where is there dissonance between your present actions and the person you are becoming? That dissonance is your opportunity. It's where growth is waiting to happen. Habits are the invisible architecture of your life. They are small decisions repeated daily, yet they build your character, capacity, and trajectory over time. A single action might seem insignificant in the moment, but when repeated consistently, it compounds into major transformation. Designing habits that align with your future self means being deliberate about your daily choices. It's not about perfection, but about being intentional with what you practice. If your future self is disciplined, focused, and healthy, your habits must reinforce those traits, even in modest ways today. Wake up a little earlier. Move your body daily. Journal your thoughts. Read nourishing material. Choose courage in moments of doubt. Every time you act in alignment with the person you want to become, you're not faking it. You're forging it. Routines are the rhythms that give your day structure and predictability. A well-designed routine is like a track that allows your energy to flow efficiently. Morning routines set the emotional tone for the day and establish momentum. Evening routines signal closure and reflection. The routines you adopt should make it easier to make good decisions, conserve willpower, and stay in touch with your purpose. When your routines are crafted with intention, they become rituals of identity. They remind you who you are and who you're becoming. This means you don't just wake up and go through the motions, but you rise into your life with awareness and direction. Systems are the environments, tools, and strategies that support your habits and routines. While habits rely on personal discipline, systems reduce friction and create ease. Think of systems as scaffolding that makes consistent behavior more sustainable. If you want to eat healthier, your system might include meal planning, grocery lists, and having only nourishing food at home. If your future self is a focused creator, your system might involve blocking time for deep work, eliminating distractions, and using digital tools to organize your projects. Systems allow you to offload decision-making and automate success. They reduce the reliance on willpower and replace it with structure. When you align your habits, routines, and systems with the identity of your future self, you become a living expression of your vision. You no longer wait for motivation. You operate from commitment. You don't chase discipline. You engineer it through design. You don't rely on memory. You rely on systems. This alignment creates inner coherence. Your days reflect your values. Your actions reflect your aspirations. Your present begins to mirror your envisioned future. This kind of design work is not static. As you evolve, so must your systems and routines. What worked at one stage of your growth may need to be reimagined at another. Pay attention to what energizes you and what drains you. Adjust without guilt. Pivot with purpose. The goal is not rigid control, but intentional flow. You're not designing a cage. You're designing a launch pad. When your daily life is structured around the habits, routines, and systems of your future self, you live in a continuous loop of becoming. Each day becomes an act of self-creation. You don't wait for your dream life to arrive. You embody it through your design. Chapter 4. Mindset, Energy, and Belief. Reprogramming limiting beliefs and overcoming the fear of failure is one of the most transformative journeys you can take when designing your dream life. It requires deep inner work, a commitment to self-awareness, and a willingness to confront the invisible scripts that have shaped how you see yourself and what you believe is possible. Limiting beliefs are often inherited silently, picked up from childhood, culture, education, or past experiences. They act as invisible boundaries, silently dictating what you believe you deserve, what you're capable of, and what's realistic. They whisper things like, "I'm not good enough, success is for other people, I always mess things up, or it's too late for me. These thoughts rarely announce themselves loudly. Instead, they quietly influence your choices, causing hesitation when you should leap, silence when you should speak, and withdrawal when you should step into the spotlight. They shrink the scope of your dreams and make your goals feel out of reach. To reprogram these beliefs, the first step is to become aware of them. Most people live on autopilot, unaware that the reason they feel stuck is because they're carrying beliefs that no longer serve them. Becoming conscious of your inner dialogue and emotional reactions allows you to catch those moments when a belief is triggered. If, for example, you shy away from applying for an opportunity, it's worth asking, what am I telling myself about why I can't do this? The answer often reveals the belief hiding beneath the surface. Once a limiting belief has been identified, it can be challenged. This doesn't mean simply replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. True transformation happens when you start to gather evidence that contradicts the belief. If you believe you're not capable, take stock of the times you've shown strength, resilience, and skill. If you think you always fail, look for examples of your perseverance and the lessons you've turned into wins. The brain responds to patterns, so the more consistently you present it with evidence of your power, the more the belief begins to shift. Fear of failure is a close companion to limiting beliefs. It convinces you that failure is a reflection of your worth, rather than a necessary ingredient of growth. In reality, failure is part of every success story. The fear of it arises from a perfectionist mindset and a desire for control and certainty. It often stems from a deep fear of judgment, of what others will think if you don't succeed right away. This fear keeps you stuck in planning, waiting, and hesitating, rather than experimenting, learning, and evolving. To overcome fear of failure, you must redefine your relationship with it. Instead of seeing failure as something to avoid, begin to see it as feedback. Failure becomes less frightening when you view it as data, a neutral part of the learning process. Every time you fail, you learn something essential about what works and what doesn't. Every setback can sharpen your strategy, deepen your resilience, and increase your self-knowledge. The more you act in spite of fear, the more confident you become, not because fear disappears, but because you prove to yourself that you can survive and grow from it. Self-compassion plays a crucial role in this process. Being harsh with yourself for failing only reinforces the fear. Treating yourself with kindness, curiosity, and grace when you stumble builds emotional safety. And when you feel safe within yourself, you're more willing to take risks, stretch beyond your comfort zone, and commit to your bigger vision. Reprogramming limiting beliefs and overcoming fear of failure requires repetition and emotional investment. You must rehearse new thoughts, embrace new behaviors, and feel the discomfort of growth. Visualization can be a powerful tool here. Seeing yourself succeed, imagining yourself confident, and rehearsing how you'll handle setbacks before they happen. The mind can't distinguish between real and vividly imagined experiences. So when you visualize often, you begin to normalize success and neutralize fear. Surrounding yourself with people who support your evolution can also accelerate the process. Limiting beliefs thrive in isolation, but when you connect with those who believe in your potential, who challenge you to grow, and who normalize courage and resilience, you begin to absorb a new set of mental models. These new stories about what's possible become reference points for your own transformation. Designing your dream life requires you to become a new version of yourself, a version not bound by past programming, not afraid of failure, and not defined by who you've been. It asks you to become the author of your mind, the sculptor of your beliefs, and the warrior of your vision. Every time you choose courage over comfort, curiosity over fear, and vision over doubt, you rewrite your story. And with every chapter you reclaim, you get closer to the life you were always meant to live. Developing discipline, resilience, and emotional intelligence. Designing your dream life is more than defining what you want. It's about becoming the kind of person who can sustain and thrive within that vision. Discipline, resilience, and emotional intelligence are the invisible architecture behind every fulfilled and purpose-driven life. Without them, even the clearest goals and the most inspiring visions can unravel under the pressure of challenge, distraction, and emotional overwhelm. Discipline is the bridge between desire and manifestation. It is the inner contract you make with yourself to show up consistently, even when motivation disappears. While passion can spark action, it is discipline that sustains momentum. To design a life that reflects your deepest values and highest aspirations, you must cultivate the ability to delay gratification, prioritize your long-term goals over short-term comfort, and follow through on your commitments even when the initial excitement fades. Discipline trains your nervous system to tolerate boredom, discomfort, and the slow pace of mastery. It helps you to stay grounded in your daily habits, even when results aren't immediately visible. The most successful lives are often not those fueled by constant bursts of energy, but by quiet, steady dedication. Waking up early, practicing the craft, reading the books, showing up to do the inner and outer work day after day. Resilience is the art of enduring without becoming hardened. It is what allows you to rise after failure, adapt to change, and find strength in uncertainty. Life will inevitably test you through rejection, loss, delay, and unexpected detours. Designing your dream life means building a deep reservoir of inner strength, one that isn't shaken by every storm. Resilience is not about suppressing pain or pretending to be invincible. It is about embracing your capacity to feel fully while choosing not to be defined by what breaks you. It grows each time you choose to move forward after a disappointment, each time you rewrite the story of failure as feedback, and each time you decide that no matter what life throws at you, you will continue. It's a mindset and a muscle. The more you exercise your resilience, the more confident you become in your ability to navigate through chaos with clarity and courage. Emotional intelligence is the compass that keeps your internal world aligned with your external vision. It is the skill of knowing yourself deeply and relating to others wisely. Emotional intelligence allows you to understand your own triggers, regulate your reactions, and respond to situations with thoughtfulness rather than reactivity. It's the awareness that your emotional state has a direct impact on the quality of your decisions, relationships, and ability to sustain motivation. Designing your dream life means building relationships that nurture and support your growth, and that requires empathy, effective communication, and the ability to navigate conflict with grace. Emotional intelligence helps you stay connected to your values in the midst of tension. It helps you recognize when you're sabotaging yourself through self-doubt or avoidance. It helps you course correct, not through shame, but through self-compassion. Ultimately, it allows you to be the emotional leader of your own life. These three pillars, discipline, resilience, and emotional intelligence, work together to form the psychological foundation of a well-designed life. They do not emerge overnight, but through intentional practice and commitment. As you develop discipline, you give your life structure and direction. As you build resilience, you cultivate the strength to stay on your path no matter the setbacks. As you grow emotionally intelligent, you learn to navigate both your inner terrain and your outer relationships with wisdom and intentionality. Your dream life is not just about what you create outwardly, but about who you become in the process. And the version of you that can truly hold that vision will always be someone rooted in discipline, strengthened by resilience, and guided by emotional intelligence. These qualities turn dreams into realities not through wishful thinking, but through steady, empowered becoming. Aligning thoughts, emotions, and actions with your dream life. Aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with your dream life is the inner architecture of transformation. It is not simply about wanting a better life. It's about being the version of you that can live it. This alignment is the foundation of intentional living, where every internal belief, every emotional response, and every external behavior points in the same direction, toward the vision of the life you truly want. Thoughts are the first layer. They shape your perception of what is possible and influence how you interpret the world around you. When your thoughts are filled with doubt, comparison, or scarcity, they become invisible barriers between you and your dream life. To align your thinking, you must begin to observe it without judgment. Start to catch the unconscious scripts that run through your mind, especially the ones that start with, "I can't," "I'm not," or "this always happens to me." Replacing these with empowering narratives is essential. When you think like your future self, someone who already lives the life you envision. You create neural pathways that begin to normalize that reality. Your thoughts become invitations for your dream life to move closer. Emotions are the energetic bridge between your thoughts and actions. They either accelerate your progress or stall it entirely. Often, people wait until their external circumstances change before they allow themselves to feel joy, confidence, or peace. But the secret is learning to feel these emotions first. When you can access gratitude before the manifestation, when you can feel fulfilled by your vision before it arrives, you generate a powerful emotional frequency that calls your dream life forward. Emotions are magnetic. They draw experiences, people, and opportunities that match their frequency. So cultivating the emotional experience of your dream life in the present moment isn't delusion. It's deliberate alignment. Actions are the tangible evidence of your inner world. You cannot think your way into a new life without eventually acting in ways that support it. Aligned action means choosing behaviors that reflect your beliefs and emotional state, not contradict them. It means doing the hard things when necessary, saying no when your boundaries demand it, and creating habits that reinforce the future you are building. Small, consistent actions matter more than grand, sporadic ones. Every time you act like the version of yourself who already has what you want, you create a deeper imprint of that identity in your nervous system. You make it more real. You move from wishing into becoming. This alignment isn't a one-time event. It's a practice. There will be days when your thoughts wander, when your emotions spiral, and when your actions fall short. But alignment is not about perfection. It's about awareness and return. You notice when you've drifted, and you come back. You choose again. Each moment offers the opportunity to align with your vision, and those moments compound into powerful momentum. When your thoughts support your vision, your emotions energize it, and your actions reinforce it, you become a living embodiment of your dream life. It stops being something distant and starts becoming who you are. This is the true path of transformation, not chasing your dreams, but aligning with them so completely that they become inevitable. Chapter 5. Live by design, not by default. Every day begins as a blank canvas, an invitation to align your choices with your deeper aspirations. In the process of designing your dream life, daily intentionality becomes the brushstroke that paints the masterpiece. It's easy to underestimate the power of small decisions, yet they are the quiet architects of the life you ultimately create. Each choice, whether it seems meaningful or mundane, carries the weight of direction. It either nudges you closer to your envisioned life or steers you quietly away from it. Intentional living starts the moment you wake. The thoughts you choose to entertain as your eyes open influence your emotional state, your energy, and your willingness to pursue your day with clarity. A decision as subtle as whether to reach for your phone or take a deep breath and set an intention already sets a tone. In those first few minutes, you are either reacting or creating. Reactivity is living by default. Intention is living by design. Throughout the day, small crossroads appear disguised as routine habits. The food you choose to eat, the conversations you engage in, the tasks you prioritize, and the emotions you feed, each of these are choices. They either align with your higher self or maintain patterns you're trying to outgrow. When you begin to understand that your dream life is not built in dramatic leaps, but in the quiet consistency of intentional living, everything changes. Living intentionally doesn't mean becoming rigid or robotic. It means cultivating awareness and taking ownership of your path. It's the difference between drifting and steering. When you move through the day with presence, you begin to recognize which thoughts deplete you and which empower you. You begin to act with clarity rather than compulsion. Your time becomes sacred, not because you're doing more, but because you're doing what matters. And that subtle shift amplifies over time, creating outcomes that once seemed out of reach. Intentionality also shapes how you treat yourself. Choosing rest when you're exhausted rather than glorifying burnout is an act of alignment. Choosing to say no to what doesn't serve you is a declaration of your worth. These small boundaries recalibrate your energy and refocus your attention on what matters. The dream life you're building isn't only a matter of external milestones. It is an internal harmony between who you are and what you do. Even your setbacks and moments of doubt are arenas for intentional growth. Instead of spiraling into fear or frustration, you can choose to ask empowering questions. What can I learn here? What am I being guided toward? How can I respond with integrity to my vision? These questions refine your awareness and transform obstacles into stepping stones. Over time, daily intentionality reshapes your habits, rewires your mind, and rewrites your narrative. It turns you into someone who doesn't just wish for a better life, but someone who is actively living in alignment with it. The difference between staying stuck and elevating your life often lies in the micro decisions that seem too small to matter. But they do matter. They are the seeds of transformation. By learning to show up every day with clarity, presence, and a willingness to live on purpose, you become the creator of your reality. The big outcomes, the ones that look like breakthroughs and quantum leaps, are simply the compounded effect of those small, intentional decisions made daily. Designing your dream life is not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about waking up each day and deciding, again and again, to live like it already belongs to you.